Most people don't know what's holding them back, but you do because you listen to me, Sam, your self-care guru and journal junkie. Welcome to Journal Entries, your safe place where you can tune in weekly to get tips, tricks, and journal prompts to uncover your feelings, gain clarity, and make your move. Hello. Welcome to this week's journal entry. If you're watching this YouTube video, you just saw my cat Koa jump up. Anyways, this is going to be a very helpful episode if you are somebody who struggles with the unknown. That used to be me, still is me. I just have an approach now that really helps me with it, as well as somebody who struggles with anxiety. And I think anxiety, a big part of anxiety, stems from the unknown. And so I'm going to help you through that. Before I get there, I just want to do a quick shout out and a gratitude and thank you to two sets of people. The first are the women who showed up to my workshop this past weekend. It was such a beautiful, impactful event. It was just so amazing. The women were working through lots of different things. And at one point, one of them said, like, it's so cool how we're all here for different reasons, but getting so much out of it using the same exact prompts, which is what I love about journaling. It's like you just turn inward and whatever it is that you're dealing with, the prompts will hit different for you. So we had some women that were just feeling like they were stuck in survival mode and trying to get out of it. Other women that were working on balancing their work life and personal life. Some women dealing with people pleasing and others with like the all or nothing or black and white mentality. So a big array, which was really cool to experience them like working through it. So thank you if you showed up. Thank you. It was awesome to be able to guide you through all of that. And then second, I have been noticing more people rating this podcast episode. I think you could even do it right now. Just like swipe up wherever you're listening and just rate a star, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really cool seeing the value that I'm hopefully bringing to you in your ears. All right, so let's dig into the juicy stuff for today. I remember the first time that I ever thought of this, and it was when I became a new mom. I remember a time even before that when I was on vacation at a resort, and one of my friends who was with me was saying that she felt like she had anxiety and was explaining what it kind of felt like. And I was just like, wow, that sucks that you that you feel that right now. I'm going to go hang out with people. You can stay in the room. And, like when you have bad anxiety, you kind of want to retreat. And I just had no idea what it felt like until I became a new mom. And for me, it showed up in any time I wanted to go anywhere with my son. Whether I was a new mom and I was breastfeeding and I just had all of the thoughts of like, how will I go out, especially if I was on my own, and like, where will I sit and what will I wear and how will I go about doing this? Where will I put the diaper bag? Who's going to be with me? If anybody, what will other people be thinking? And then once he got older, it was anything from like, you guys have likely heard the splash pad story. I think I had a whole podcast episode on it, but I wanted to take him to the splash pad, but I couldn't because I was so anxious around this tiny stuff of like, do I bring his diaper bag with me? If so, where do I put it? Wherever it was like a splash pad and a playground. Like, where do I set it down? Do I carry it with me? What if he falls? Do I bring an extra change of clothes because he's likely going to get wet or not because we live 5 minutes away? Like all these tiny things. Another thing was bringing him to the post office. I used to always wait to go to the post office until I had a sitter that could watch him because it just seemed easier. Because in my head, I thought, if I bring the stroller, which I would at the time, because I would also be carrying all these packages, I think I know that there's a ramp, but where is it? How will I open the door? What if he starts crying in line as I'm waiting to, step up to the table to send my packages? And it just seemed like too much. Like I might as well just wait. Also, coffee shops. I specifically remember telling my sister about this, the anxiety of opening the door on my own. If I'm going in by myself which I wanted to do, but I just thought, how do I open the door in a way where with the stroller, I'm not bumping the stroller or bumping myself or blocking somebody else going in. And the coffee shop that I was thinking of going into had 2 doors to enter it. And it was just too much. And I had so much anxiety around it. So that was when I first implemented this because I wanted to do these things, but it was like my mind was stopping me. And so what I did was I journaled about it first. And just kind of organically, I wrote out what is the worst case scenario? What is the worst case situation that would happen? And then the solution for it. What will you do if and when that happens? And then I wrote out the best case. And I just chose to focus on the best case scenario. But there is a key. So stay tuned because there is a key in the middle that will help you because a lot of people do this and then they're like, great, but now I'm just thinking about the worst case scenario and I don't want to get stuck in those like negative feelings. So I do have a super simple trick for that. But journal out the worst case scenario. So for me, like the post office and the coffee shop, that was this very similar situation where, you know what, I won't find the ramp for the post office and or I'll get stuck in the door. Same thing with the coffee shop. I'll show up. I won't be able to get in. No one will be there to open the doors for me. And the solution is I just go home and I'll try again another time, or I'll get a sitter for my son and I'll go by myself another time. So that was the solution. Same thing with the splash pad. I'll just go home. Another less likely relatable scenario, but very recent for me, was egg freezing. And this was an interesting one because I had picked a worst case scenario, but it was one where I just felt trapped because the scenario that I chose was that I would give up, that I just wouldn't follow through because the shots were too painful, or I just couldn't get myself to give myself the shots. And that just wasn't going to be an option for me. I was going to follow through. And since I knew that I wasn't going to let myself fail at this, like not follow through, I just felt very stuck and like almost resenting that I started this in the first place. And so I chose a new worst case scenario, which was that I went through with it. I went in for the egg retrieval procedure and things went wrong. And I needed to be hospitalized for longer, which meant the solution was I needed way more support. I needed somebody to pick up Griffin from school and watch him for a few days. And I even went through who in my life can step in and support me during this time, who can come visit me in this hospital scenario, like who is my support system. And it just made me feel, even though it was a pretty shitty situation, the goal of the worst case scenario is not to get stuck. The goal is to feel in control and to feel more courageous in actually doing it, which is why the next step is the best case scenario, which I'll get to in just a second. But some more examples of what else I've journaled the worst case through is going on dates. As a single mom, I have very limited energy, and the energy that I do have, I just want to like preserve it and relax and binge reality TV rather than getting ready and going out on a date. And so it takes a lot of like, I want to bail on a lot of first dates. I'll just say that. But I'll journal like worst case scenario, I do go on it. And it's like a waste of time. And I'll want to leave early. Another thing is thinking of putting an offer in on a house. This happened to me probably a year or so ago, and I was just going back and forth. I had no idea. I was just like in my head about it. So I just journaled, what is the worst case scenario if I do put an offer in, and what is the solution for that? And what is the worst case scenario if I don't put an offer in, and what would the solution be for that? And just kind of seeing how that resonated with me. Times that I have helped my clients through this is when they've needed to have a hard conversation with an employee, when the belief was that they weren't on the same page. And that not just an employee, but relationships too. Any hard conversations, this is a great way to do the worst case, best case situation. Also, nerves about becoming a new mom. I helped my twin sister through this. She was just having a lot of anxiety around like the unknown. And I don't know if she would say it's anxiety, but just nerves around the unknown of how she's going to show up, of what it's going to be like, of how she will act and behave under stress and no sleep and pressure. So I helped her through this with that. Deciding where to invest their time and money, as well as social situations. You can use this through like so many situations. So, the first step, as we've talked about, journal the worst case situation. Then, if that happens, what will you do? What is the solution? And remember that the key here is just that you feel in control. So that solution that you come up with, you just can kind of like put in your back pocket and know that if it happens, you have a plan. That's like your backup plan, your plan B. And here's the key. The key is to then release it. You can be confident that if shit hits the fan, you will have a plan of what to do. And you no longer need to think about that. You can now release it and move on to the best case scenario. And this is where you lean in to how good can this get? What is the best case of this actually working out? What will it look like? What will it feel like? How will I go about this situation? How will others go about this situation? And lean into that, right? As many details as you can, like really picture it and feel it. And that is what you focus on. Anytime the worst case scenario pops up, or that usually isn't what pops up, the anxiety pops up again, or the unknown pops up again, that is when you can very gently, gracefully, and quickly remind yourself, I have a solution for that. I don't need to spend time focusing on it. This is what the outcome will be. And just lean into that best case scenario. The best case scenario for the splash pad was that I show up and I am able to bring the diaper bag if I want to. And there's other moms there that just make me feel included and supported. And Griffin has an amazing time. And he doesn't get too wet and I don't need to change him. And we go home and then we have a snack and then he naps for 5 hours. The post office is I park. I see the ramp as I'm driving up, so I spend zero time wondering where it is. And then I realize there is a handicap like button that I can press that opens the door for me. And then I walk in and there's no line. I just get to walk straight up to the table and they help me mail my packages. For the coffee shop, I park, I get my son out of the car, and then there's people that are there to help me open the door. But I also, side note, I did YouTube how to open a door with a stroller. And I like practiced that for sure. So there's that too. If nobody was there, I could do it on my own. I was like gaining the courage and confidence to do that. Egg freezing journey was just that I went in for the egg retrieval and everything went smoothly, which guess what? It did. All of these things actually did happen. Going on dates, I've gone on dates and, the best case is that it just was a great time and maybe I liked the person, but it just didn't feel like a waste of time. It felt like a breath of fresh air and getting out of the house. Thinking of putting an offer in on a house, the best case situation for that is just clarity of just like feeling like I made the right decision one way or the other. And then I know that the times that I've helped my clients and sister through this, they have all come out saying that they just feel so confident. And the person that I helped with the employee, where she felt like they weren't on the same page, she went into a conversation with them and it turns out that they were on the same page. And she left me a voice message being like, oh my gosh, this was like the best case. I just didn't expect this to happen. But she had journaled through like, if it's not, this is what I can do. If it is, this is like the dream situation. And it was. So journal about the worst case, honor the anxiety that you have, honor the unknown because it is so real and pretending like it's not there does more damage than good. Just showing up somewhere saying, I am fine, I am courageous, this will be great, but underlying knowing that you don't actually feel that way, I think is like the worst because then you feel you're like trying to hide something on top of that. So honoring how you actually feel, coming up with a solution for that, and then leaning into the best case scenario after you release the negativity. And again, if that negativity, anxiety, unknown, nerves comes up, honor it again, just quickly and gracefully, knowing like you've worked through this already, you have a solution. And if the worst case does happen, that's where sometimes it did happen, and I will open up my journal. And that is one of the few times where I will review, like, okay, what did I say I was going to do in this situation? And I will use that kind of as like a blueprint of, okay, this is how I said I wanted to show up, or this is how I said, or what I said I wanted to do. So this journal entry can take you anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. Unless it is something that's like a really emotional topic that you've never journaled about, then it might take a little bit longer. But it's just such a quick thing that you can do that will snap you out of this like negativity and spiraling and get you into a more positive, optimistic headspace while feeling in control and courageous, and like help you do the thing that you actually want to do. So I hope that you found this helpful. I would love to hear if you try this and what your scenario is, what you actually journal through, because I think hearing what people use this strategy for is really beneficial. So many people struggle with nerves and anxiety and the unknown, and knowing that in general, but then also knowing specifically how you've used this process will help people think of this solution. We'll let them know, like, as soon as they start feeling that one like little twinge of a feeling, oh, I can journal through this. And that is what journaling is for me at this point. I immediately go to my journal, which might not be the case for you right now, but it can be. And this is one of my go-to journal entries. So good luck. And here's to feeling more at peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's journal entry. I love connecting with my listeners, so make sure you screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at samantha.s.says so I know you're listening. And don't forget to grab your free training and journal prompts at www.samanthapenkoff.com/podcast.